delivering your merciful care through our work in public service. Finally, please anchor us always in humility, reminding us that we are here at the behest of our people, and that our position is not one of power, but of service, and that our mission is one of unity and not division. All this we ask in the name of our Lord Jesus, through the intercession of our Blessed Virgin Mother. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
The Pasay SDA Church Music Ministry will lead us in the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, and the group will also render a song entitled Tagumpay Nating Lahat.
Bayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alab ng puso, sa dibdib mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, duyan ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisiin. Sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mong bukaw, may nilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kisap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagininig. Ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang may magdidilim. Lupa ng araw na at ating pasinta, mo'y langit sa piling mo. Ang ligaya na pag may mga api, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo. Tagumpay nating lahat. Hangad ko'y tagumpay nating lahat. Tagumpay nating lahat.
The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. Honorable Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camil, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Subiri. The Senate President is present.
With 19 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. We have just like to recognize our guests. We have local officials from Pigcawayan, North Cotabato, and San Andres, Catanduanes. We also have local officials from Lagonoy, Camarines Sur, headed by Mayor Diego Luis Pilapil, and members of the Lapid Law Firm from Cebu. Baka relatives ni Senator Lito Lapid po ito, Mr. President. We also have We also have Attorney Mabel Mamba, President of the Rural Improvement Club, guest of Senator Pangilinan. We have also the National Movement of Young Legislators from Llano del Norte and Osamis City here with us today. And we have also guests from Temple Hill International School, Jose Maria College Foundation, Inc. of Davao College of Law, and Tech Voc Institutes from Zamboanga del Norte, Cavite, and Quezon City here with us in the Senate today, Mr. President.
All right, we welcome our guests to the Senate this afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the Journal of the 46th session Wednesday, February 18, 2026, and consider the same as approved, Mr. President.
Any objection? Chair is none. The journal is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
Bills on first reading. Senate Bill number 1869, an act modernizing the process for the correction of entries in the civil register by establishing a digital notice system, amending Republic Act number 9048 and Republic Act number 10172 by Senator Villar M.
Referred to the Committees on Justice and Science and Technology.
1870, an act abolishing the travel tax by Senator Villar M.
To the Committees on Ways and Means, Tourism and Finance.
1871, an act amending Republic number 7941, otherwise known as the Party List System Act, presenting the political party system to promote proportional representation and for other purposes by Senator Ejercito.
Referred to the Committee on Electoral Reforms.
1872, an act integrating all the provincial and sub-provincial jails within the jurisdiction of the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, amending for the purpose certain provisions of Public number 6975 and Public Act number 9263 by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Public Order and Local Government.
1873, an act providing for rank structure upgrade in the classification of the Bureau of Fire Protection in the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, and amending for the purpose certain provisions of Public Act number 9263, otherwise known as the Bureau of Fire Protection and Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, Presidential Act of 2004, for the purposes by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Public Order, Civil Service, and Finance.
1874, an act strengthening the contractor's license law, further amending for the purpose of Public number 4566 as amended, and for other purposes by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Trade and Public Works.
1875, an act to modernize the National Business Development Services ecosystem by amending Republic number 10644, otherwise known as the Go Negosyo Act by Senator Ejercito.
To the Committees on Trade, Economic Affairs, and Finance.
1876, an act criminalizing negligence on government projects whose quality of work is below prescribed standards by Senator Fulfo E.
To the Committees on Justice and Civil Service.
Resolutions. Resolution number 304, resolution directing the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers to conduct an inquiry in the legislation to conduct a thorough investigation into the employment, status, and safety of Filipino seafarers passengers linked to shadow fleets by Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committee on Migrant Workers.
305, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in need of legislation on alleged theft incidents and threats to passenger safety involving transport network vehicle service delivery riders within the view of strengthening accountability mechanisms, enhancing consumer protection, reviewing and refining existing regulatory policies, ensuring that TNVS platforms and their accredited riders are held fully accountable for losses and damages suffered by the public, while recognizing the government's continuing initiatives to modernize and improve the country's transportation infrastructure and public service delivery system by Senator Tulfo R.
To the Committee on Public Services.
306, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to inquire in the legislation the status of production and publication of the Philippine map reflecting the West Philippine Sea pursuant to Bishop number 29, with the view of ensuring the timely production, publication, deposit, and transnavification thereof by Senator Marcoleta.
To the Committees on Foreign Relations and Environment.
307, resolution expressing the sense of the Senate of Philippines to protect all Filipinos against extraordinary rendition and guarantee them additional time prior to their surrender or extradition from the Philippines to seek redress from the courts and avail of legal remedies by Senators Cayetano AP, De La Rosa, Estrada, Escudero, Go, Marcoleta, Marcos, Padilla, and Villanueva.
Referred to the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
I'm just conferring, Mr. President, with some sponsors of the measures today. May I ask just for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
Session suspended. Jordi Lida.
Ready, Lisa? Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we resume consideration Senate Bill number 1508 under Committee Report number 12. So move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Consideration of 1508 is in order.
This is an act authorizing the Department of Health to set and approve bed capacity and service capability of all DOH hospitals. May we recognize the sponsor, Mr. President, Senator Risa Hontiveros, to propose the amendments. We are in the period of amendments, Mr. President.
Parliamentary status is that we're in the period of amendments. Senator Risa Hontiveros is recognized to sponsor. Continue sponsoring the measure.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Taking into account the interpellations of our colleagues, Senators Sherwin Gatchalian and Joel Villanueva, this representation proposes amendments to Senate Bill number 1508, otherwise known as the DOH Hospital Bed Capacity and Service Capability Rationalization Act, to further clarify its policy intent, ensure alignment with the Universal Healthcare Framework and the Philippine Health Facility Development Plan, and strengthen congressional oversight and transparency safeguards. The proposed amendments will also incorporate the recommendations of Senator Bongo, particularly on mandatory consultations with stakeholders and on safeguarding the prioritization framework for healthcare investments pursuant to the UHC Act. Individual amendments, Mr. President. In Section 2, Declaration of Policy, on page 1, delete lines 7 to 10 and replace with the following. Towards this end, the state shall empower the Department of Health, DOH, to efficiently and responsively determine and rationalize the authorized bed capacities and service capabilities of hospitals under its supervision and control, consistent with national health facility planning standards and evolving population health needs. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 3, Purpose, Scope, and Coverage, on page 1, delete lines 11 to 13 and replace with the following provision. Section 3, Purpose, Scope, and Coverage. This act shall streamline and institutionalize the process for determining, setting, adjusting, and approving changes in the authorized bed capacities and corresponding service capabilities of all hospitals under the supervision and control of the DOH. I so move, Mr. President.
All right, you have stated anyway in Section 2 that the DOH is the Department of Health. So no need.
Yes, Mr. President.
No need to elaborate on Section 3.
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Chair is none. Motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 4, authority to determine and approve authorized bed capacity and service delivery. On page 1, lines 14 to 15, continuing to page 2, lines 1 to 7, replace the entire Section 4 to read as follows. Section 4, authority to determine and approve authorized bed capacity and service capability. The DOH is hereby authorized to determine, set, adjust, and approve the authorized bed capacities and corresponding service capabilities of hospitals under its supervision and control. In the exercise of this authority, the DOH shall take into consideration the Philippine Health Facility Development Plan, PHFDP, hospital development and modernization plans, catchment population, and projected demographic trends, epidemiological data and burden of disease, health human resource requirements and staffing standards, existing and planned healthcare provider networks, and other nationally recognized planning and licensing standards. Then follows, Mr. President, the amendment from Senator Bongo. Insert as paragraph 3 of Section 4, subject to style. In adjusting authorized bed capacity and service capability, the DOH shall undertake mandatory consultations with the healthcare provider networks to ensure alignment with the province-wide and city-wide health systems established under Republic Act No. 11-2023, otherwise known as the Universal Healthcare Act, provided that the adjustments authorized under this act shall not result in the creation of a new hospital, the abolition of an existing hospital, or the transfer of hospital ownership or management without an enabling law enacted by Congress. The DOH shall issue the necessary administrative guidelines within 90 days from the effectivity of this act. I so move, Mr. President.
All right, so that practically amends line 5 to 7 also, no?
That is correct,
All
Mr.
right, any
President.
objection? Hearing none, amendments approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 5, Philippine Health Facility Development Plan, on page 2, line 10, after parenthesis PHFDP, delete the succeeding phrase and paragraph and replace with the following provisions.
Replace
Replace
from
page 2, line
from,
10,
yeah, line 10 up to what? Line 13?
up to
Hanggang line 13 ba ang i-replace? Correct? Correct.
that is correct, Mr. President, until line 13.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Replace with the following provisions to guide the development, modernization, expansion, and rational distribution of government health facilities nationwide. The PHFDP shall serve as the primary basis for determining funding, requirements for adjustments in the bed capacity and service capability of DOH hospitals, and for facilitating access to available capital outlay allocations and other government funding mechanism. Following is the amendment of Senator Bongo to be inserted as the last paragraph of this Section 5, subject to style. Nothing in this act shall be interpreted as giving preference to hospital investments over investments in primary care, preventive services, and community-based health systems pursuant to Republic Act No. 11-2023. I so move, Mr. President.
You are retaining line 14 to 19, no?
Likewise deleted, proposed to be deleted, Mr. President, ang lines 14 to 19.
Okay, so are deleting also 14 to 19 and
Yes,
in
Mr.
lieu
President.
thereof, what you just read,
Yes,
subject
Mr.
to style.
President. Subject to style, Mr. President.
All right, subject to style, because that last paragraph might need a different section, but nevertheless, as I said, subject to style. Any objection?
Yes, Mr. President.
Hearing none, amendments approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. On a new Section 7, funding requirements, on page 2, between lines 23 and 24, insert a new section, Section 7, to read as follows. Section 7, funding requirements. The funding requirements arising from the adjustment of authorized bed capacities and service capabilities shall be included in the DOH program in accordance with the PHFDP and the respective hospital modernization and development plans. Such funding shall be included in the annual General Appropriations Act, subject to the regular budget process and authorization of Congress. Thereafter, renumber the succeeding sections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, amendments approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, on Section 20, Annual Report to Congress. On page 2, lines 24 to 27, change or replace Section 7, Annual Report to Congress, with the following provision to read as follows. Section 8, Annual Report to Congress and Public Disclosure. The DOH shall submit to Congress through the Committee on Health of the House of Representatives and the Committee on Health and Demography of the Senate an annual report detailing the approved bed capacity adjustments, corresponding changes in service capability, budgetary implications, status of implementation, and alignment with the PHFDP and universal healthcare objectives. The DOH shall publish on its official website all approved adjustments in authorized bed capacity and service capability, including the basis and justification for such approvals, to ensure transparency and public accountability. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, amendments approved.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. President. Wala na pong further amendments.
Majority Leader.
No other member wishes to propose or propound any amendments, Mr. President. I move that we close the period of amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none, period of amendments closed on 1508.
Mr. President, I move to approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1508 under Committee Report number 12. I so move.
Any objection? Chair hears none. Senate Bill 1508 is approved on second reading.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Madyo.
Congratulations, Mr. President, to our dear colleague for her happy bill. Another happy bill. Are you ready for the second one? Wala pa. So, barm na muna. Let's take up the barm. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the wait. We just would like to consider for plenary action today Senate Bill number 1823 under Committee Report number 29, Mr. President. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, Senate Bill 1823 under Committee Report 29 is in order.
Mr. President, this is the resetting of the first regular election of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. If I may, Mr. President, be recognized to sponsor the measure, and I believe we have some distinguished colleagues who would like to propound some interpellations on the measure, Mr. President. If I may be recognized. May I
Yes,
just ask
you
for,
are recognized to sponsor the measure.
may I just be asked a minute suspension to get our staff in position for the interpellations.
Who will be interpellating you?
Mr. President, Senator Rodante Marcoleta and Senator Ping Lacson. So
All right, so we will start off
maybe we
with
can
Senator
give
Marcoleta.
Senator Marcoleta the chance
After
first.
the suspension, so you can prepare. Session
Yes,
is
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr.
suspended.
President.
Resume. The majority leader is recognized to continue sponsoring the measure and to interpolate Senator Dante Marcoleta.
We'd just like to put on record, Mr. President, we are joined today with a few members of the Parliament, BTA Parliament, particularly Attorney Nagib Sinamilimbo is with us. Also helped us when we craft the Bangsamoro Organic Law, Mr. President.
Yes, okay. We welcome them to the Senate this afternoon.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Mr. President, at the outset, I want to manifest my full support to the measure sponsored by our Majority Leader, Senator Miggs, for the bill seeking to reset the first regular elections in Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao to the second Monday of September 2026 and every 3 years thereafter. I would like to raise, however, Mr. President, a few questions on the proposed measure. Mr. President, I would like to seek clarifications regarding the legal readiness of the Bangsamoro electoral framework, particularly on districting, which is essential for the conduct of elections. We recall that Bangsamoro Autonomy Acts, BAA numbers 58 and 77, were declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in October 2025 because the parliamentary districts were not contiguous or adjacent, among other reasons. As a result, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority was directed to pass a valid districting law by October 30, 2025, extended until November 30, 2025, so that Commission on Elections could proceed with elections not later than March 31, 2026. Mr. President, we note that the BTA now enacted BAA 86, a redistricting law on January 12, 2026, which was approved by the Interim Chief Minister on January 20, 2026, thus addressing the Court's directive, albeit beyond the original deadline. Without delving into the reasons for the missed deadline, Mr. President, I would like to be clarified. What specific steps, legal reviews, or consultations were undertaken to ensure that BAA 86 fully complies with the Supreme Court's ruling, particularly on the requirements of contiguity and adjacency of districts?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Nung nagkaroon po kami ng committee hearing, yan ang unang-unang tinanong ko, Mr. President, sa kanila, na baka naman maging unconstitutional muli itong BAA 86 na pinasa nila, amendments to the Electoral Code. Pero pinakita naman po nila sa amin, and we had a constitutionalist at that time, which was former Supreme Court Justice Ascuna, and it showed clearly one of the issues was the gerrymandering. Ibig po sabihin yung may distrito po sila na nasa isang lugar, tapos may isang bayan na malayo-malayo kasama sa distritong yon. So nagka-problema po sila sa gerrymandering, ika nga. It was not contiguous. They were able to resolve it under BAA 86. So yung mga malalayo ay sinama na doon sa kabilang distrito at hindi na po nila sinama. Yung pangalawa ay yung violation ng under the law, which is the 120 days, you cannot change the precincts within the 120 days prior to the elections, no? So, ang nangyari po dyan, before October 2025, which was our law that we passed here, I believe it was Senator Amy Marcos who sponsored it, Republic Act 12123, which provided the date of elections of October 2025. Ang nangyari po, lumabas itong BAA 77 prior or after the 120 days was already starting. So obviously the Supreme Court declared it unconstitutional, not of course not in accordance to the law that was passed on the Electoral Code. and also the gerrymandering. Those were the two main issues. So dito po sa BAA 86, Mr. President, itong bagong amendments to the Electoral Code, ginawa na po nilang maayos na dun sa gerrymandering issue, inayos na po yan. At kaya nga po, pasok tayo sa 120 days kung gagawin po natin siyang second Monday of September 2026, which according to Chairman George at that time was enough time for him to be within the 120-day period, Mr. President, Your Honor.
So, Mr. President, what assurances do we have that the BAA 86 can withstand constitutional scrutiny? Because the upcoming elections will not again be jeopardized sana kung walang unconstitutionality
Yes.
pending or potential nullification of the redistricting law by BAA 86. Paano, Mr. President, kung naging unconstitutional? That is the problem.
Well, we will not be able to predict, Mr. President, if there will be someone who will question this law and, of course, BAA 86. But I believe that the members of parliament of the BTA, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, was able to comply with the requirement of the Supreme Court to address the issues of unconstitutionality. Particularly po sa gerrymandering, talagang tinanggal na po nila yung malalayong lugar at sinama na po nila ang mga districts, Mr. President. So, I trust the wisdom of this new BAA 86 to be compliant with the constitutional requirements brought about by the Supreme Court ruling. As a matter of fact, we had several legal luminaries during the hearing. As I mentioned, nandun po si Justice Ascuna. And Justice Ascuna mismo nagsabi na with these discussions, this was during the end of the committee hearing, Your Honor, after 4 hours of listening to both sides, nagsalita po siya na he feels it will be compliant. Of course, we cannot guess what the court will decide later on if there will be someone who will be filing a question to the Supreme Court on this particular issue. But we feel in the committee, Mr. President, and my dear colleague, Senator Dante, is that we are compliant with the constitutional issues addressed by the Supreme Court ruling.
Meaning to say, Mr. President, we are assuming that nobody will raise the issue of constitutionality with BAA 86, and that if somebody does it, the Supreme Court will simply adjudge it constitutional. That these are our presumptions.
That is our prayer, Mr. President, yes.
And you share that optimism, Mr. Majority Leader, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Good luck.
Ultimately, what we want is more peace, Mr. President. Ang worry ko lang is, there are people who want to throw a monkey wrench, Mr. President, with the permission of course, of Senator Marcoleta. I just want to expound. There are people who want to throw a monkey wrench in the peace process in Mindanao. The best way to destroy the peace process in Mindanao is to subvert their mandate by not allowing elections. So kung palagi tayong postpone, magkakagera talaga muli sa amin po, sa Mindanao, particularly sa Bangsamoro region. Kaya we are hoping that the Supreme Court this time will render this new Bangsamoro Autonomy Act of 86 as constitutional, Mr. President.
Let's move to the electoral framework, Mr. President. We understand that the BTA also passed BAA 88 on January 28, 2026, which amended BAA 35 or the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, which was enacted in March 2023. Given that the BTA had nearly 3 years since the passage of Electoral Code, Mr. President, may I respectfully seek clarification on the following. First, what are the key amendments introduced by BAA 88 and why are these changes necessary at this stage of the electoral timeline?
I believe when it comes, one major reform, Mr. President, is the manner of voting for sectoral representatives, when representatives from the women, youth, settlers, youth, settler communities, ulama, and traditional leader sectors will now be elected through direct voting by the people, while the non-Moro indigenous peoples will continue to be chosen through an assembly-based process kasi meron po silang FPIC, which is the Free Prior Informed Consent. Traditional po yan sa kanila. So registered parliamentary sectoral organizations will also be allowed to field their nominees or candidates whose names will appear on the ballot. Another important change is the reduction of the electoral threshold for regional parliamentary political parties from 4% to 2.5%, making it easier for smaller parties to gain representation. In addition, the membership requirement has been lowered from 10,000 to 5,000 members, with membership now required to be distributed across the majority of provinces, cities, and municipalities within BARM rather than across all provinces. Lastly, all parliamentary sectoral organizations, regional parliamentary political parties are required to undergo registration and accreditation, which mandates the Commission to issue implementing rules and conduct the process of registration and accreditation ahead of the filing of certificates of candidacy, manifestations of intent to participate, and similar submissions, Mr. President.
What circumstances or developments prompted these amendments to be made only very recently, considering that they directly affect COMELEC's preparations, particularly in the accreditation of political parties and even sectoral organizations?
Yeah. Actually, I asked, because umalma din yung ibang sectors, bakit nawala yung original plan, which is also chosen through assembly-based process. The problem with the assembly-based process, Mr. President, is para magtatawag ka ng tao, tapos magkakaroon ng election dun sa assembly. We felt that that was more unconstitutional, Mr. President, because the best way to actually carry the voice of a sector is through regular type of elections where the women's sector is selected by all members of the BARM areas, all provinces, all districts that will be able to participate. Ang mangyayari kasi dyan, baka may isang assembly lang po sa Cotabato at sasabihin nila, itong aming member sa kababaihan, so women, paano naman kung nagkaroon din ng assembly dun sa Tawi-Tawi, nagkaroon din sa Basilan, sino pipiliin ng BTA or the Bangsamoro Parliament na talagang magdadala ng boses ng kababaihan? So the best way to do it is really through an electoral process where they get to choose. So yung hindi lang pong ginawa ng ganyan is to respect also their customs and traditions are the indigenous peoples, yung mga non-Moro IPs, kasi meron talaga silang assembly-based process. As a matter of fact, sa Bukidnon, kakatapos lang, although they're not from BARM, we just elected our IPMR that's the indigenous peoples member representative in the Sangguniang Panlalawigan. Tapos ang nangyari dyan ay may sarili silang proseso sa pagpili. Hindi po halalan, parang nagme-meeting po lahat ng mga IPs from the different towns at sila po ang nagde-declare sino yung magiging member of the provincial board. So, ganun din ang mananatili sa non-Moro IPs. But for all the others, Mr. President, to avoid confusion and possibly conflict, the best way to do it is mahalal na po sila. They have to register na ako po, si so-and-so, representative ng youth sa COMELEC, at ilalagay na po yung pangalan po ng grupo nila doon at ihalal po sila sa kababaihan at sa iba't ibang sektor. On the issue naman po, is the reduction of the electoral threshold for the regional political parties from 4% to 2.5% is to allow more representation, Your Honor. Kasi ang nangyayari, iisa lang o dadalawa lang pong grupo ang makakuha ng 4% at makakuha ng 10,000 members distributed all around the provinces. Kawawa naman yung mas maliliit na grupo po, Your Honors. There's several smaller groups of our Bangsamoro brothers and sisters that want to also participate in the parliamentary elections but cannot do so because of the very prohibitive number of 10,000 members in each community or province or city plus a threshold of 4% total. So, medyo malaki po. Kasi 4% total population of BARM is in the hundreds of thousands din, di ba? Malaki din yung 4%. So, binabaan na lang po para mas inclusive po siya.
I'm only interested, Mr. President, on how optimistic you can be, considering that these changes were made very, very recently. But if these changes are really significant and they contribute to the orderly conduct of the elections in the BARM, I have no problems with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with you to that, sir.
Mr. President, a very urgent petition was filed before the Supreme Court asking the High Court to declare as unconstitutional the appointments of BTA's Chief Minister Abdul Rauf Makakwa and 5 other BTA members. The petitioners argued that Article 16, Section 2 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law states that the MILF shall lead the BTA in recognition of its role in the peace process in Mindanao without prejudice to the participation of the Moro National Liberation Front. It is argued that the Bangsamoro Parliament is composed of 80 members all over the region, but only 34 MILF members were appointed, and that the MILF endorsed members should be at least 41 instead of 34 for the legislative measures to prevail. Should the Supreme Court rule in favor of the petitioners and declare the appointments as unconstitutional, what will be its effect?
There will be an absence of authority. Kaya nga po, Mr. President, yung gusto ko po, personal opinion ko po is, kaya dapat talaga magkaroon ng halalan. Kasi kung right now we are operating on a temporary state.
Ako gusto ko rin po eh. Kasi matagal na talaga yan eh.
I totally agree
Ang
with you,
problema
sir.
po, paano kung, halimbawa, kaya tanong ko, paano kung dineclare na naman na constitutional? Will it have the effect of, again, resetting
Hindi naman po,
the
sir.
election?
Hindi naman po, sir.
Sana
ang
po,
mangyayari
di ba?
kasi, ang mangyayari kasi dyan, I believe that Malacanang would have to learn its lesson and will have to appoint 41 members of the MILF and more members of the MNLF. Their contention with me is that Chief Minister Makakwa is a member of the MILF. Although maybe another faction, kasi faction din po sila. There's a government faction, and there's of course the ideologue faction of Chairman Murad. So the only way to answer that, Your Honor, to be honest about it, and I think we all agree, let's take it to a vote and let the people decide once and for all. I think that would be the best, Mr. President.
But in the, I would say, remote possibility that the Supreme Court will hold it unconstitutional, will it affect BAA 86, Mr.
Hindi
President?
naman po, sir. Hindi naman po, sir.
You are
Hindi
sure,
naman.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Hindi naman po, sir. Kasi batas po siya. So it's a law it's a national law declaring the date already of the elections, which the COMELEC would be already prioritizing, at the same time also preparing for, including the registration of the new party list members and all the members of the different districts. I think it will not affect the election per se, because that's a different topic altogether. Ang mangyayari siguro dyan, maging null and void po yung position ni na Chief Minister Makakwa kung lumabas po na Supreme Court ruling tungkol dyan na unconstitutional yan, and they will have to appoint within the parameters of the BOL law, which basically is the 41 members coming from the MILF, and I think they'll just have to comply with that. But the elections, Mr. President, Senator Marcoleta, I don't think it will be hampered in any way on the date of the elections.
So from today until the second Monday of September 2026, we will have to keep our fingers crossed, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We
you,
are
Mr.
praying.
President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
To continue interpellation, the Senator Ping Lacson, the President Pro Tem, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, let me clarify that I am not objecting to the measure under consideration. Rather, this is a manifestation of concern, no? Particularly on a potential constitutional infirmity. I will cite Article 18 of the Constitution, transitory provision, no? And I will deal with that by way of citing Abbas Kida versus Senate of the Philippines, GR number 196271, October 18, 2011. Inaffirm po ng Supreme Court yung constitutional mandate for synchronized national and local elections under the 1987 Constitution, recognizing synchronization as a core constitutional principle that shapes the structure of Filipino democratic governance, Mr. President. Yung court's decision upheld Republic Act number 10153, the statute that reset the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARM, elections to coincide with regular synchronized elections. Kasi ginawa natin noon, second Monday of May.
Yes, sir.
But under the measure, particularly or specifically Section 1, that seeks to amend Section 13, Article 16 of Republic Act number 11054, otherwise known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, inaamin po natin na ginagawa nating second Monday of September 2026 and every 3 years thereafter. So does it mean na
Hindi
maging
masisynchronize.
permanent na po ito na every second Monday of September?
That was the idea, Mr. President, but I agree to your proposed amendment when we discussed it on the
At the
on
proper
floor.
time.
The proper time, Your Honor.
Yes.
I accept na kaagad. I accept that we synchronize it. And I believe the good gentleman from Cavite has the perfect amendment, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. No, meron pang isang concern but will not go there anymore kasi mas lalo ma-complicate. Kasi doon din sa Abbas doctrine or sa jurisprudence, it also illustrates the limits of legislative and judicial intervention regarding the terms of elective officials. Pero sabi ko, wag na natin pag-usapan muna yon. Because what I will be proposing later during the period of amendments is that payagan na nating mag-extend sila. No?
Yes, sir.
If we hold this particular election in September
Yes, sir.
2026, let them extend their term of office hanggang sa June 30 of 2028.
June 2031. Yes, sir.
2031.
Yes, sir.
Napaboran na sila ng how many months, Your Honor?
1 year and 17 months.
Oh, never mind that. Sa kanila natin itakil pag may nag-question sa
Opo.
Supreme Court. But that's all that I have to express, Mr. President. And at the proper time, I will introduce my my proposed amendment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Mr.
very much,
President.
Mr. President.
And I will gladly accept. I agree with the good gentleman from Cavite, Mr. President. Mr. President, the last to interpolate, I believe, is our distinguished minority floor leader, but he's not here at the moment. We can suspend, Mr. President. I move to suspend consideration till tomorrow, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure is suspended.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Yes, for a minute suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.